Next up, I'm really excited to introduce a client that I personally have had the pleasure of working with for close to a decade now. He is going to present the following case study: how local publishers increase campaign scale without jeopardizing performance. So with that, I welcome David Harold, Director of Audience Targeting Strategy, Advanced Local Media. He's an advertising professional with 20 years of experience and is responsible for championing data-driven advertising across his company. Hey, David, thank you for joining.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Harold, the Director of Audience Targeting Strategy for Advanced Local Media. So Advanced Local is a publisher of regional and news entertainment websites from several dozen newspapers across the United States. We reach over about 50 million people a month and have won numerous awards for journalism, including Pulitzer Prizes for breaking news, local reporting, feature and editorial writing. We care about our local communities, and they rely on us every day for accurate and unbiased reporting, as well as results-driven advertising that helps them grow their local businesses in a meaningful way. So we've been partnered with Lotame for nearly 9 years, which is a staggering amount of time in internet years. And technology has changed in really significant ways in the last 9 years. In that span of time, Apple launched the iPad, Google launched Chromebooks, Instagram and Pinterest launched, cars, refrigerators, baby monitors, doorbells, light bulbs all began connecting to the internet. Ride sharing services and food delivery services became popular. Social media influencers began doing whatever it is they actually do. Voice assistants like Siri and Alexa began listening to us, and the internet officially became more popular than television. Not to be left out, the digital advertising world also experienced some monumental changes in the last decade that changed the way data is collected and managed on the internet. Apple released intelligent tracking prevention and changed the value of a cookie on an Apple device, and it was the starting point for other browsers to consider similar privacy measures. Shortly after that, our friends in the European Union implemented the General Data Protection Regulation, which changed the way many publishers collected data and interacted with their readers in the EU. The Cambridge Analytica data breach inside Facebook was exposed in early 2018, forcing Mark Zuckerberg to explain how Farmville worked to a lot of confused congressmen, and they promised never to do that again. Later that year, California's Consumer Privacy Act made some additional requirements on the ways publishers collect, sell, and manage personal data for California residents. And most recently, Google made the decision to phase out third-party cookies by 2022 in favor of its own privacy sandbox within the Chrome browser. Every time the digital landscape shifts like this, all the participants in the advertising ecosystem must shift with it. And as a publisher, we've evolved a great deal over the last decade and will continue to do so in the foreseeable future. When it comes to the shifting landscape, Lotame has been a great partner and has provided us with the tool for data-driven sales strategies in the middle of all of these changes. Like many publishers, our content is one of our most important assets. And being able to generate positive outcomes for our advertisers using that content is the ultimate goal. Like many others, we're exploring dozens of different solutions that would allow us to deliver relevant advertising to our readers in this new world without third-party cookies. And one of those solutions is to begin contextually targeting in a much deeper way than we have before, while embracing identity and privacy as well. And this brings me to the use case I'm here to talk about today. Back in May of this year, we had the opportunity to test some more advanced contextually targeted strategies with a client of ours in the Syracuse market. It was a little tricky finding an opportunity that involved only first-party data targeting. We rely pretty heavily on third-party data to enhance our own first-party data for advertising purposes. However, we thought that this was the best way to see how the lightning tag and cartographer work together on a local campaign was by using our audiences of our own first-party data. The client we decided to work with on this experiment is a national real estate agency with local offices in upstate New York. Their goal was to reach both in-market home buyers and sellers in the region while they were in the midst of their home buying or selling search. The client ultimately needed high qualified leads and was willing to pay a premium to acquire them. We decided to use a few real estate audiences built completely with our first-party contextual real estate data that incorporated specific recency and frequency signals. So we built one audience of devices that generated 2 or more real estate signals in the past month, and another audience that generated 3 or more real estate signals in the past week. With recency and frequency applied, we knew these audiences would be much smaller than the standard real estate audience, and we were hoping we had enough inventory to deliver to the client. We were accustomed to working with audiences of devices numbering in the millions, but these audiences would be measured in the thousands because of their increased engagement and also because they were locally geo-targeted to upstate New York. Our product team worked with Lotame to launch the lightning tag on our local news site in the early summer of this year, just as we were all hoarding toilet paper and binge watching The Tiger King. At that point, we immediately began to pass first-party cookies to Lotame and cookieless key values to our ad server. This allowed us to target site visitors much faster than our previous tag and also allowed us to behaviorally target devices that we hadn't been able to previously. In the past, we avoided passing behavioral audiences to the ad servers through the client side in favor of server-to-server connections. This is mainly because we use Google Ad Manager, which struggles to recognize the overlap of audiences passed through the client side in order to accurately forecast audience-based impression inventory. So for example, if you have an audience of peanut butter fans and another audience of jelly fans that are being passed through key values, Google Ad Manager struggles to understand that booking inventory against peanut butter fans is also booking a large portion of inventory to jelly fans because most people are in both audiences. Ultimately, we realized that the increased delivery was more important to us, even if Google never comes up with a solution for that. We also enabled Lotame's cartographer ID graph on all of our local sites several months earlier in February to test scale across our behavioral audiences. As Pierre mentioned yesterday, cartographer is a people-based ID graph that allows us to associate devices to a person. So for example, if someone did their real estate searches with their personal laptop, we could also reach them on their phone, tablet, or work computer. This also helped qualify people for the audience containing recency and frequency by looking across all devices for qualifying signals, not just the device that exhibited the original signal. So if someone consumed real estate content on their phone one day and their tablet the next, they'd qualify for the audience. In the time period of our initial test, we saw a 20% increase in the targetable data collected by the lightning tag across our test market. We also saw a dramatic increase in the available inventory that our contextual audiences were generating. I was initially worried about the inventory, but as it turned out, the audience-based inventory generated by the lightning tag exceeded the client's budget for this campaign. We also saw no dip in performance from all this additional inventory, which was great. The metric that really sold me on the effectiveness of the lightning tag and cartographer combination can be seen in the graphs on this slide. When the COVID-19 pandemic was in full quarantine lockdown in March of this year, like most news organizations, our web traffic more than doubled some weeks in March. Later in the spring and early summer, unique visitors were drifting back down to normal as COVID-19 cases were dropping. In the same time frame that our site traffic was dropping after the quarantines were ending, the volume of our first-party data was actually increasing at the point of the lightning tag launch. So when fewer people were visiting our sites, more data was being collected. That's when I knew that this was actually working really well. Normally, we see our data collection metrics follow our site traffic metrics pretty closely, but this was one of those times when I saw the inverse happen and I knew why. That's all I have to share for you today. Thanks so much for your time, and hope you all enjoy the rest of the day's presentations. Take care.